So my goal today is to really talk about the good and bad EMFs. And EMFs are basically electromagnetic fields. So now these are fields that are all around us all the time. Earth has its own electromagnetic field, and that's what's actually kind of protects us from all the solar energies and stuff that's coming. So Earth is kind of breathing, if you will, it's got this energy, because anytime you have a moving of electrons, you have a magnetic field. So we have magnetic fields on pretty much a lot of different things, anything that's living especially. Now, there's also a concept that non-living things also have EMFs, but that's some kind of a theory. So it's up to you what you want to accept from, the science. So you'll discover that even with electricity, we don't fully understand it. We just know the effects of it. Just like our phones, right? We don't quite see the data that's flying all around the place. And it still amazes me that we can actually see a person's face on this live, just pretty much seconds after we're talking to them. And it's all traveling through the air. So there's information around our environment and around our air that if you have the right reception, you will pick up. It's the same thing for spirituality. There are messages and beings that are around us, and if you have the right frequency or the right receptors open in your mind and your body, you're going to be able to feel those. So in accordance with that, I wanted to just talk about, kind of merge the technology, the EMFs, and then the spirituality together to talk about the good and the bad EMFs, because it's just like the yin and yang sign. You have good things and you have bad things. It really depends on your intention and how you're using it. And once you become educated on what's happening in your environment, I believe you can create that sacred and healthier space for you and your family. So just to give you a little background on what got me into this EMF stuff, it's about 2 years ago, my son goes to Crossfield Elementary School here in Fairfax County, and they decided they wanted to entertain the concept of putting a cell phone tower into the school. And it would be literally just a few steps away from where they play, on the playground. Now, all the parents, I shouldn't say all the parents, some of the parents were very concerned with the amount of radiation, with the amount of frequencies and electromagnetic fields that would be emitted from this. And we have children that are growing to be exposed to these fields. Now, I'm not here to scare you or tell you that you should or shouldn't do some things. I'm just trying to explain to you what I have learned that has opened my eyes as far as all these different fields that are around us and how it impacts our body. Not only that, but it's our health, it's our spirit as well. If you're a spiritual person and you want to connect, how it impacts that. And since then, I've learned, your environment, your home, all the way out to, how they're actually using these frequencies and EMFs as weapons. So there's definitely power to them. And when you see some of the videos and some of the images, your eyes really, you wake up from the fact that these are things that we don't see, yet it can affect us tremendously. They're using it for crowd control. They don't even have to use guns anymore, because they can forward or point these and send you specific frequencies and specific waves. And it will make you feel confused. It will make you feel like you're burning. So there are different things, and all of this I'm actually putting on the website. So, but just coming back to it, my big concern was with my son being exposed to radiation. So I joined this group about 2 years ago, and we went through that battle of, trying to prove to people that there is all kinds of research now out there. And actually, if you look at your settings on your phone, you'll be able to see that they have in there, they say this should not be on your body because it does give off radiation. And it starts with just this, because we're all addicted to this, right? I can't live without it. And my son is always holding the iPad. So after this experience, I really wanted to make sure that he didn't get exposed to all of these radiations. And I wanted to understand not just what's happening in the air, but what's happening in our bodies. So I wanted to understand, is it a good place for him to be? How much is too much for him? Because we did volunteer for over almost 4 years at NIH for autism. He was in the healthy group, but through that research over the years, they had doctors that were studying the genetics, the diet, and also EMFs. Nutrition was another one as well. So understanding how our environment really impacts us, because whether we like it or not, we are being impacted. And there is a thing called brain entrainment and body entrainment. So if you're with somebody and you're hugging them, your heartbeats actually synchronize within, I think, 90 seconds, might even be less. When you're listening to music, especially certain beats of music for a period of time, your brainwaves synchronize. That's why if you're trying to learn something, or if you've ever studied accelerated learning, they have those beats per minute in the background to put people into like a trance mode, basically, so that you can learn better. You don't have as much anxiety. Now, in learning about this electromagnetic fields, electric fields, magnetic fields, and radio frequency waves, and also we have geopathic stress. So I'm going to go over these in just a few minutes to explain to you guys what the differences are. But in order to understand how our environment may be impacting us physically and mentally, I really wanted to understand what we can do about it so that we can have a healthier living environment. I'm actually right now studying functional medicine as well. My daughter's had some medical issues. I've had some hormonal issues. So in trying to figure out, how do I balance my body and what is happening? And functional medicine actually looks at not just your body and your diet, but it's also your environment. So that kind of opened me up to, okay, if I am trying to eat healthier and I'm exercising, I'm doing all these other things, but still not getting better, still, have issues. What is causing that? And the next thing is your environment. So you'll see a lot of these people that are fit, athletic, they eat right, they juice, and they do all the healthy stuff, yet they still end up getting cancer or have medical issues. So that means that there's something else that's happening where their body is not quite recovering from all the good things that they're putting into their body. So that kind of led me into this whole EMF thing. So I think my personal opinion is once you understand what's in your environment, then you're more educated to control that so that you can create that healthy space for you. And whatever that definition is for you, that's going to be different for everybody. For me, it was really critical to be able to heal at night and to make sure that my kids have as low a radiation as possible, just so their cells can recover from being impacted. So on a cellular level, radiation hurts us, natural and unnatural. It actually causes some kind of chemical and electric reaction in our bodies. And that's what causes some of the problems. Now, some of those are good because some of that radiation we need in order for our body to know it's day and night, right? So we got the sun that's kind of coming in, that's natural radiation. We got sunburn. If you're out there for too long, your skin will react to it. But we need that in order to create vitamin D. So it's understanding how much is good, when is it good, and then when should we limit our exposure to these electromagnetic fields. Or I should call this radiation, because that's what really it's going to go down to. Now, there are two different electromagnetic fields. There are natural ones, like we talked about. The Earth has its own natural electromagnetic field, and so do other living beings and animals, etc. So we all have this magnetic field kind of happening, because anytime you have moving electrons, you're going to have this field. And we have what we like to call the aura, right? So the aura is changing colors and frequencies. So there's something happening in our bodies at all times because we have all these different types of cells, energies, etc. That's all causing this. It's the same thing with Earth, right? Earth is kind of going through that. So we have the natural EMFs, again, like the sun radiation and natural radiation. We also have geopathic stress. Now, this was the one where we met at the park and we did this. So you can actually take, I don't have them here, but you can take copper rods, dowsing rods, and you can actually walk through, and when they cross, you can see that there's some kind of geopathic stress. I'm just very minimalizing it right now. But there are different ways you can detect the Earth geopathic stress. Now, we call it geopathic stress because it means the Earth is stressed, right? There's an uneven flow of energy that's coming that's not beneficial. Now, the Earth has actually, tried to create cure for it by putting plants and animals that actually benefit or transform these geopathic stresses. So if you look at some of the trees, like pine trees are really good at growing at geopathic stress. Bees love that geopathic stress, so they actually put their nets and stuff around geopathic stress areas. Ants. So it's funny because I always take pictures of my yard where you can see clearly, like a clear path, and then you see the ant homes or the mounds right where the geopathic stress lines are. And I actually had my husband and my son do the geopathic stress just so they could experience it and see it for themselves. So once you understand where it's going, the geopathic stress in your home, then you can understand, okay, we don't want to put our beds here because this is an uneven energy that's coming that can cause a lot of problems. So some of the things that a geopathic stress can do is, I'm not going to say it definitely does because I don't know if there's any proof, but it can cause problems with fertility or pregnancy. So if a person is laying on this geopathic stress, it's easy to move that person so that they're not getting exposed to this geopathic stress. And geopathic stress goes all the way up. So it doesn't matter if you're living on a condo building, etc. So it does go all the way up. That energy is coming from the Earth and going up. And you can do like some tensor rings and stuff just to disperse that energy so that it doesn't impact you. So there are things that you can do yourself. It's not expensive. And as I'm going to go through some of this, it's basically for you to start taking some action today so that you're limiting your exposure. And if it's not yourself, think about your kids. So my whole purpose is to really educate you guys on this course that I took from GeoVital. And GeoVital is a naturopathic clinic that they focus on EMFs and geopathic stress and how to limit that, especially in the bedroom. So we're going to kind of talk about that because at night is when you're healing. So you want to make sure that your cells have time to recover and focus on you versus still battling, magnetic fields or RF radio frequency from your phone or some other energy that's going around your bed. Once you do that, it will have time to really focus and rebuild and rejuvenate your body and to grow. So we talked about what are EMFs, and I know some people are kind of coming in. So I apologize if you guys haven't heard everything, but I'm going to go through it because I do have a lot of information and I don't want to keep you guys here for too long. I do have a lot of information I'm putting on my website. And for anybody that did join, I'm going to give you guys free access to the training that I'm putting together. That will have a lot of, checklists, guides, pictures, etc. So, all right. So we talked about natural EMFs, right? Man-made EMFs. Another natural EMF, we talked about the geopathic stress, which is like the bad part of a natural EMF. But then there's also grounding. So grounding is a good way for us to recharge, or I should say, we're collecting all of this energy fields like RF, MF, electromagnetic fields, we're collecting them, and there's no way for it to kind of get grounded, just like an electric rod, right? So we don't have a way to disperse it until you go and ground yourself. So once you ground yourself in Earth, it kind of just dissipates, and the energy fields even out. So grounding is actually a great thing if you have time to do that. The cancer patients are always recommended to go ground themselves and to spend time in the sun because we know that these things help us. These are good EMFs that our body needs. Of course, if the ground that you're trying to ground yourself on is not healthy, then that's another point. But most of the time, if you do go to a park, etc., you're going to be able to ground yourself effectively and kind of help balance your body. And the best place, I think, is really like the beach. If you're going to the beach, then you're going to feel all that energy drain, right? We get the sun. Now our bodies are producing vitamin D and all these other chemical reactions that are taking place, plus you've just grounded yourself. So then that's why we kind of feel all beat, because there's so much stuff that's happening that our bodies haven't gotten used to because we've isolated our living situation. We're living on platforms and shoes that are plastic. We're never grounding ourselves. Our home environments are constantly sending signals. And I'm a real estate agent, so we talk about, how people are wanting all these smart appliances and smart homes. And as you're going to find out, those might not be the best thing if you're looking to be healthier. So let's go through it. So there are 4 things that I wanted to talk about, which are, I just have them shortened here: EF, MF, RF, and GF. So EF is electric fields. So this is a different version of magnetic fields, but these are electric fields. So they are created anytime you have electricity, or uneven flow of electricity is the worst kind. Magnetic fields, we just talked about that. Anytime you have electric fields, you'll also have magnetic fields. And the amount of magnetic fields will depend on the flow, which I'm going to go over. Now we also have RFs, which are radio frequency waves. Now these are man-made. These are from our phones, from anything that's given off, like baby monitors, now security systems, etc. So these are giving off different frequencies, and they're all on like different types of bands. And so you're constantly, if you're not getting one from this, if this isn't enough, you've got appliances now starting to talk, Internet of Things are coming into everything. You have smart meters that are giving off radio frequency waves. So our bodies are constantly getting all these different types of frequencies. And what a lot of doctors and researchers have found, that all these different frequencies impact our bodies at different levels. It does different things to us chemically and physically, and it impacts our health. So we're going to talk about all of these. I'm going to show you guys all of that. Now, possible health impacts. As I said, for me, excuse me, what we've noticed in our family is fertility issues, impact on the kids especially. So the younger that they are, the more impact that they may have, because their cells are still growing. So if they're exposed to all of these different types of radiation and they don't have enough time to heal, especially when they're sleeping, and we have them in an environment where they're not able to recover from things, there's definite impacts. At what level will depend on, obviously the nutrition, how well your kid adjusts to it, etc. And we have the adults and also the elderly. And I actually went around after I did this, and I'll show you guys some of that, but I went around and just looking around here, what's happening in our environment. So this is Chantilly High School. They have 2 cell towers on their premises. These are it. Then I looked at Langley High School has 2. Then this is, I don't know if you can see here, but there's a cell tower by the playground here, next to the fire station. So you're going to see a lot of, thank you, a lot of cell towers. Now, after you do this training or this webinar, you'll be able to notice a lot more of these. Now, they're actually shading some of these and covering it with leaves, etc., so that it doesn't look as obtrusive as some of the ones that we're going to see. But you're going to be able to notice some of this. Now, this is Stratton Woods Park here in Herndon. And so the feel of it was, you can go to the park and relax and ground yourself and, kind of get healthier, right? All these parks and natural states, now they're erecting cell phone towers in there. And I have my tri-field meter here, which was a little less professional one. Now I have an NFA meter, and I'm actually waiting for my GeoVital meters that actually measure the body, which is what I was really looking for. These ones measure what's happening in the air, so it doesn't quite tell us how does it impact us. So obviously, if people are, heavier or skinnier or more prone or weaker immune-wise, it's going to impact people differently. So here's another one in Reston. This is the Marriott Hotel, Marriott Suites. So these are all antennas on top of it. And now what we're noticing is in the condos, they're putting antennas on top of the condos. So the top floor is going to get all that radiation. So, as a real estate agent, I'm not supposed to talk about, or deter people from buying or selling or, in specific areas. But in this case, I'm just talking about understanding how the environment or what's happening in your living space can really impact your health. So anyways, here's Herndon Middle School. So I went around and, South Lakes has 2 of them as well, right on their football fields. Here's another community where you can see some of this. So I'm going around and actually looking and documenting some of these places. And the reason that we're actually decided to homeschool our child going forward, he's still in Crossfield right now, but next year he's going to Crossfield. And Crossfield Elementary School has a cell tower. And when I looked at the measurement ratings, it's one thing that you feel like you don't have a choice, but to put your child in an environment where it may not be healthy. And another thing to have the luxury or the choice to be able to send them somewhere else. So these are things that I'm finding that's important to us. It's not going to be important for everybody. And in some cases, you won't have that option or the choice. So your work environment, I think I have some of that outlined here. So your work environment may not be the best. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my mind map here. All right. So you can have your home is the #1 thing that I think, if anything, if you guys start looking at your environment, understanding do you have a smart meter, what kind of electric fields may you have, or magnetic fields, or if you're having issues such as insomnia or headaches, you can't figure out why, or if you have specific medical problems that don't seem to go away, even though you're taking healthier actions to help cure it, then it may be a good time to look at your environment and understand, okay, I really need to analyze and see what's going on in my environment. In some cases, you may not have a lot of choice, but in a lot of cases, you will. And GeoVital actually focuses on, basically cleaning up your environment, especially just in the bedroom, so that you can actually heal, allow your body to get strong, so that the minute you do step outside, because the minute we step outside, everyone's got one of these, right? I mean, just think about the massive amount of impact that your body is getting. Not only that, but now they're looking at implementing 5G, which is shorter waves, shorter distance, more strong microwave waves. So you might as well just get used to standing in front of the microwaves. And these are going to be every 100 meters, they have to put antennas up. So just to give you an idea, they're going to have to put up as many antennas as what they've put up the last 10 years just to be able to support the 5G. So this is going to impact the health of people. I have absolutely no doubt in that. It's just understanding how bad it's going to hurt. So this is something you can search on your own. Like I said, I'm actually trying to do more and more of it. Some countries have discovered the impacts and they're pulling off 5G. So there's different ways that this is going to come about. Unfortunately, some people will become a statistic and some people will choose to take action now to kind of limit their exposure. So EMFs in your environment, when we're driving out to Ashburn, I see all the data centers going up, all the generators, etc. EMFs at school. So I've done a lot of research on the Fairfax schools, and there's I think 24 of them already have cell towers on there. And for a measly, for Crossfield, it was $200 a month. That's what they were trying to get by putting that cell tower in. So EMFs at work. I used to work at data centers. I used to manage data centers. So EMFs at work, you're constantly being exposed to that electrical and magnetic fields. You have to kind of be cognizant about that and you know, understand how it may be impacting you. And there are some things that you can do. I used to sit in literally a data center with all these computers. And when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, I actually went and bought an X-ray cover to protect my belly. So of course, this is only as good as, you know, it's just protecting one side of it, but your the rest of your body is still getting affected. So in essence, you know, does it help? Does it hurt? It's not 100%, but I felt good about it. EMFs at your home, and then the magnetic fields from the LDLs is the local distribution lines, which are the power lines. So let me go back and show you guys some of that. So this is actually a very good and important part of it. So let me close out some of this to go through it. All right. Let me make this bigger. So these are local distribution lines. Now, in some cases, these local distribution lines or power lines are underneath the ground, but it's still the same concept. So these lines are actually, let me see, I don't have the big one, but let me just talk about this one. These lines bring in electrical currents into our home, and they also take back the neutral, right? It neutralizes us. So anytime you have a circuit, actually, let me start with that first. Let me see if I have a circuit. So you guys can see I'm putting together a pretty extensive explanation of things, which I don't have a circuit, which is not good. But anyways, I'll put that in there. So anytime you have a circuit, you have an inflow of electricity and then an outflow, right? With DC, that we have direct current, and then we have alternating current. Now, alternating current was kind of invented by Tesla, and it allows for basically pulses of electricity to kind of travel instead of just one little line that goes around. With AC alternating current, you have like these little packets that go back and forth. And in US and Europe, it's 50 to 60 hertz. So believe it or not, if you take a light bulb, it's actually pulsating 60 times per second, right? That's 60 hertz. So this alternating current is kind of like little buses of energy that's kind of coming and going. And by the time it gets the circuit completed, it's got all these extra packets in there. And that's why we have electric fields as well. It's not just one direct current like in a battery. So if you have a battery, it goes one way. And if you switch it, the plus and the minus, then like if you have a fan, it will start rotating the other way. So the current flow is direct. It's only one way. With alternating, it's all over the place. Like it's a pulsing kind of. Pulsing is not the right thing, but it is a pulsing type of process. So let me show you guys that. So here we go. All right. So in here, I want to just quickly, I don't want to go too much into this, but so we create this electricity in the power stations, right? And then they do all these transmission lines, which are like the really big ones. And then it goes to transmission substation. So there they decide, okay, this much of it goes here, this much of it goes here. then you have the distribution lines, and again, it goes through this conversion process and it gets split. So by the time it gets to our house, it's lower, right? So this is harder to do because then you got to take direct current, then you got to switch it to alternating current, and then, you know, there's all kinds of switches that are happening just to be able to get this electricity all the way from the electricity, the power stations that are generating it to our homes. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a big push now to have the residential homes actually creating solar energies or solar panels, to implement solar panels. Like in California and stuff, all the new homes that are going up have to have either solar or I can't remember now, but different ways of getting energy. So solar panels, all of this. But what people don't realize is depending on how it gets put into the home or implemented for the home, it may cause more magnetic fields, more electric fields, etc. So that's something to kind of think about because it is coming down the pipeline. If there are going to be requirements for solar panels on every home, because now the manufacturers of cars starting 2025 is going to be all electric. So in order to support that need for electricity, you know, obviously the power stations are saying, you know, we're not going to be able to keep up with all this demand on electrical currents because now we have electric cars, we have, you know, smart appliances and Internet of Things. Now everything has some kind of a way to, you know, be alive on the internet, I guess, if you want to call it that. So those are things to kind of think about. And then when the electricity kind of comes on these poles and into our home, you're going to see like there's 3 lines. And in USA, we have 2 lines of 120 that's coming, and then we have a neutral line kind of going back. So anytime you have a current, you should have a neutral and a ground so that you're protected. So I'm not going to go into too much of the whole electricity thing, but I do want to explain to you the importance of this whole circuit, because the way that it works is through that circuit, you're going to have electric fields, which is what we were looking at. So here's a great comparison between electric and magnetic fields. So anytime you have an electric field, first of all, electricity, you're going to have magnetic fields. All right, the electric fields, excuse me. All right, it's produced by voltage. Voltage is like pressure. Okay, so you're going to have different voltage. So here, let's say that this is by your bedroom, so you have your lamp plugged in, but it's turned off, so you feel okay. See, I didn't know any of this stuff until I actually went through and tried to understand, okay, how do I minimize the impact and understand what's happening, at least in our bedroom. So like most people, you know, we have 2 lamps on both sides of our bed. I actually have some electrical cables, or actually it's the TV cable that has a splitter right under my bed. I didn't realize this, but right under our bed, and it splits off to the upstairs bedrooms. And then I have our motor for our, what is the name of the bed? But electrical bed, basically. But the motor is in there, sleep number bed. And the motor was right on my side and under my head. So I have all these electrical fields. So when I did the electrical field measurement on my bed, I mean, it was, compared to my husband's, mine was huge, and we're not that far apart. So, you know, those are just simple things that you realize, like you're getting all this electric and magnetic field when you're trying to rest. No wonder I was having problems with insomnia. I've had problems with my hormones. So now that I have kind of removed those and blocked it, and you know, it can be as simple as putting a sheet on it to kind of block the electric fields or ground it, etc., so that it kind of dissipates from your environment. So, and I'm starting to feel much better. I sleep much better for sure. So it's measured in volts per meter. So these, I'm not going to go through too much of this because in the training and the more, if you wanted to get more educated on it, understanding how to use the meters and understanding how you analyze your own environment, you don't have to hire somebody to come in and spend thousands of dollars. You can do this by buying a meter and really understanding what's happening in your environment. So anytime you have the electricity, right? So here's the electricity. Even though your lamp is off, there's still pressure here, right? So there's still voltage on that wire. So if your cat or dog bit it or whatever, they could get electrocuted because it's something that's happening. So this electric field, obviously, it can get blocked. So this is what it talks about. It can be weakened by conducting objects such as trees and buildings, or you can put a shield. So a lot of our wires that we buy are not shielded. So like we're looking at, living healthier and maybe even creating or building our own home. So you can buy shielded wire where there's like a metal shield around it, and it takes this electricity and grabs it and then takes it down. So that shield around the wire would eliminate these electric fields. And it does cost, I don't know, I think it's like 2 or 3 times more than the regular wires. But if your health is dependent upon it, it obviously makes sense. So if we're looking to build, we don't mind paying a little extra to make sure that these electric fields or these wires are shielded. There's also different ways that you can take action with these electric fields. So if you're really noticing, and these things come out about 6 feet, right? So they're pulsating about 6 feet. So wherever it is, it's going 6 feet. Now the impacts of these, they also have what they like to refer to as dirty electricity. There are a ton of research on how this leads to, cancer, or it may lead to, I shouldn't say it leads to, it may lead to cancer, health problems, ADHD on kids, etc. There's a great book called Dirty Electricity on Amazon. I think it was one of those books that was unlimited for free that you can read, as well as some other ones that are great out there. But here's a guy that actually did research on electric fields at schools and found out, why certain teachers and kids had high levels of cancer. So he was researching these clusters. So what we talk about when we talk about clusters is, if there's a health issue in a cluster of people in a specific area, like lead poisoning from the water, right? So you have an understanding that there's something probably in the environment that's causing this. So they call it the clusters, right? So they go and investigate these clusters to figure out, what it is in the environment. Is it the water? Is it the environment? Is it electrical fields? Is it the cell towers? Whatever it is that are causing these. Now, the biggest challenge is the fact that everybody reacts differently. It's the same thing with medicine. One medicine that should work for everyone doesn't work. And it's the same thing with all these fields. It's not going to have the same effect because some people are eating healthier, some people are sleeping at better places, or some people are grounding themselves, or some people aren't. So it's going to impact people differently. So understanding what it can cause, and I have links that I will send to you guys that you can look, everything from fertility, insomnia, cancer, brain tumors, or tumors within the body, heart problems is a big one, because what this does is it impacts the calcium channels in your cells. So what happens is you have these receptors, they're like little screws, and when the receptor sees that there's a calcium, let's say, nearby, it opens these channels and it gets screwed in, and now the chemical process takes place within your cell. So that potassium channel, once it's open, it creates that. Now what happens is, even though the potassium is not there, the frequency of the potassium, right, it opens up those channels for your cell, and all this is happening. This is just coming into your cells, and that's what causes a lot of this. So if you wanted to research it for health, the calcium channels and how electric fields impact your body on a cellular level. So there are different things, and that's just the one that they have actually found and proved. So this is, again, it goes back to, yes, it does do something, at least with the calcium channels, and they haven't quite did the research for other things yet, but they are working on it. There is a website called Bio Initiative, and there are researchers and doctors from around the world that are really trying to come together, share their research and their findings so that they can have a comprehensive documentation for people who are fighting and trying to, limit the 5G exposures or stopping the cell towers at schools, or understanding that this EHS, which is the electrohypersensitivity syndrome for people. For example, I started noticing, if I hold this in my hand for too long, I do feel it tingling. So I am starting to feel definitely the impacts of it. So now what we have is, we have a rule in the house that you are not to hold this on your body, anywhere on your body, no, not in your pocket, not in your hands. My daughter has had fertility issues, and she puts this on her back pocket. So the rule now is that if she wants to have the phone, she can't put it on her body. And she's understanding now too. For men, if they put it in their front pocket, you will have damage to the sperm. No doubt about that. You can actually do that yourself. You can take your sperm and look at it under microscope. You will see it. So there's sperm issues, there's fertility issues, and I guess some women even put it on their chest, which I don't understand why, but that could cause breast cancer or trigger the cells to grow abnormally, and then other things may trigger it. So I'm not going to, again, say any of this causes that, because there's so many different aspects that need to go through it, but it does cause damage, and it is radiation that you're putting on your breast or by your heart. So those are things that are really, really critical. If anything from this webinar, I just hope that you become more conscious of, especially your phone, because we're all using the phone, right? My son is not allowed to hold the iPad anymore. We have a stand, and if he wants to watch it, he can watch it. There's also a limit with the blue light exposure. You can actually change that. So there's vision and hearing loss that people are noticing. I've actually lost hearing on my right-hand side because I always hold my phone on the right-hand side. So I have a very hard time hearing from this year. So those are the things that I've noticed. And I want to make sure that people like you that are listening to this have an understanding of these electric fields. So you can limit these electric fields by simply unplugging this, or you can buy circuit breakers, which is, there's different types of circuit breakers where if it detects that there is no demand for electricity, it actually cuts it off at the circuit. So then you have none of this, no electric fields and no magnetic fields. Unfortunately, I haven't found one in the US that has that automatically. In Europe, they have those. But in the US, we have a switch. So you actually can go on your phone and kind of say, okay, turn off the switch now. I don't want any electricity, at least in the circuit in my bedroom while we're sleeping, or, in our bedrooms after 12 o'clock. So that's something that we're looking to implement in our new home, because we're looking to move out of this area. So that's the electric field. So understanding that, and there's a great video that I'm going to show clips of it. They have, they're showing the mice, right? It's the same group of mice, and then they expose one side to electric fields, and they're just going hyperactive. So, the impact that we can see from the animals versus, obviously they're not going to do it with the kids, but understanding if your kid is reacting or can't sleep, or having a hard time sleeping, or bedwetting, etc., maybe it's time to look at the environment and see, okay, should we move the bed? Should we test it to make sure these electrical fields are not there? Maybe unplug things and just create like a safer, calmer environment for the kids to sleep. And then we have the magnetic fields. Like I said, we have electric fields that always produce magnetic fields. Magnetic fields are produced by current. Anytime there's an electron movement, you're going to have magnetic fields. So we talked about that. The Earth has its own magnetic field. The plants have their own magnetic field. So you have these magnetic fields that carry information. If there's a current that's coming this way, you can actually, if you put your thumb in the direction of the current, the way that your fingers curve is the direction of the magnetic field. So that's the palm. That's how you know which direction it's kind of coming. Not that it makes any difference, but if you're kind of thinking about these kinds of things, it's good to understand. Now the magnetic fields get weaker as you're going farther away. It's the same thing with the electrical fields, right? If you block it. But if you have the electric fields and the magnetic fields going at all times, and anytime there's an uneven flow, so you're going to notice that in a circuit, well, I have to stay on this one. In a circuit, there is a power that's coming in and a neutral line that's coming back. And what happens is those two waves cancel each other out. So you don't have as big of a magnetic field or an electric field, right? So they're looking to cancel themselves out. But what happens is we add, extension cords, we add splitters, or our wiring is not right. So there's no ground, no neutral, or that they're connected differently. So now what you have is you have like an uneven flow, right? So you have all this current that's going in and only this much coming from this line because you've kind of split it with other lines around the house, or, your electrician didn't do a good job. And sometimes it's really hard to catch those things. But now you have an uneven flow of current coming back. And what happens is now you have a huge magnetic field because if it's not canceling each other out. So the reason that you have a neutral and an active is because they cancel themselves out so that you don't get this electric field. But oftentimes what we do is we have one that's creating this magnetic field. And you can measure these with little outlet things. I think they're like $4 or $5 at Lowe's. You can plug it in to see if your outlets are actually powered right, if they're grounded, if the neutral is working, etc. And then you can buy the meters to see the electric fields, the magnetic fields, and the radio frequencies. So let me just see if you guys have any questions so far. I know I'm talking a lot, and we have a pretty good amount of people. I'm going to unmute you guys, and just mute yourself, please. Okay, mute. Okay, unmuted. So if you have any questions, I know I'm talking a lot. I just want to get through this information. Let's see, chat. Okay, good. So just to let you guys know that there is chat and there's a question tab on the GoToWebinar that you can put your questions in. And if I'm not clear on something, please let me know, because like I said, I am working on actually putting together this entire training for people to create, at minimum, a safer and a healthier sleep environment. That's like the #1 thing, because it's going to be very hard for people to be able to avoid some of this. But again, with healthier habits and understanding, the daily things that we do use, we can limit them. So let me see. Hi, Deborah. Do you have a question? Click to unmute. I'm going to unmute you guys. But please mute your mic in case I hear something. So if you have a question, please let me know. I see your hand is up, so I'm going to just wait for you to answer. All right, so we talked about the electric fields. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Again, with the electric fields, it's understanding every current, right? Every wire that we have is that active, and we have the neutral, so it kind of comes back, and then we have the ground. Now the ground is in case we get hit by a power, like a lightning or something happens, it can take this extra load of energy or electricity and push it into the ground. So let me go back and show you guys that. So I don't know if you guys want to go through this, but anyways, so this is the power lines. Okay, so we have this coming to all of our homes. And this transformer like decreases it. It creates these 3 lines that we talked about, which is the 220 volts and 1 neutral. And we need to have the neutral to kind of take the voltage back, right? The current kind of comes back. And that again, if it's even, it's going to cancel each other out and it's going to have a nice return back. So this is, let's say that this is your home. And this information comes in, you have your little meter, right? And then it powers everything else in your home. Now here we kind of talked about, the smart appliances and all the different ways that we are exposing ourselves to radiation. And obviously some of this, we're not going to be able to get away. But there are things that you can do. And if you're looking to move to a new place or set up your own office or build, like we're looking to do, you can take these steps to create a healthier environment. Now we've noticed a lot more doctors are now asking for wired homes so that they don't have Wi-Fi. And there's multiple reasons for that. One is to limit the radiation or exposure. Second is security. So even though you think you're being secure with all these wireless devices and wireless security, it's wireless tapping, it's access point. And everything that, the Internet of Things, if you guys know anything about those Internet of Things. Okay, so I have one. It says, this is great info. I've been talking to my boyfriend about radiation from cell phones. I live in Ashburn and I think there's like Internet or cell phone towers out here. I've been wondering about their safety. Yes, Mary. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so happy that you guys are providing some feedback because it's really important. Like I said, I'm not here to scare you guys or tell you guys, this is going to cause cancer or this is going to cause. I just want you to know that it does impact us. And the more our environment is changing, and it's looking like it's going to change tremendously with this 5G coming. And there are going to be health impacts. I have no doubt in my mind that people are already feeling some of these. And until you understand and know how it may be impacting you, you're not going to be able to know how to shield it. First of all, understanding the electric fields, right? There's dirty electricity that may cause issues within your cells. Electric fields, right? And those are things that you can easily get fixed. Then you have the magnetic fields. Now, magnetic fields can't be quite shielded. There's one product, I think, that shields it, but magnetic fields are everywhere, right? We have our own magnetic field. Each person has a magnetic field. So we just need to understand, how do we limit that exposure? How do we ground ourselves, and how do we create and connect with the good EMFs so that we can kind of balance our body out? And then understanding, is there a way for me to limit some of this exposure? So here, we have, and I have this too, you guys. I mean, it's not like I've made the whole transformation. I just learned about all of this, and now we're in the process of saying, okay, you know what? We do have a smart TV, but we can run a cable to it. So now we have some cables kind of running through. But, if we're looking to build that house, it's not that much more of an effort, especially if you're looking to build or you're renovating, etc., to put shielded electrical cables in, or to wire, get wired internet. And of course, you're not going to have all of it, but at least in your bedroom, if you want to limit that exposure, that's going to be the key. The second thing that I want to talk about is when people are using their cell phones or their Beats, headset with the Bluetooth, etc., understanding if you do start to get vision problems, hearing problems, if you're getting headaches, if you're experiencing memory loss, notice that those things maybe because you're being highly exposed to this. My daughter has had really high earwax coming out. So she was always like, Mom, I don't know what's going on. You know, I have all this earwax. And then, you know, we walk into the doctor's like, well, are you using headphones? Yes. Okay. Well, there you go. So our body reacts, you know, it gives us these signs and signals. So I actually just completed a section on my website about how our body talks to us. So everything from your nail colors to eyes to tongue, etc. So I'm building that part. So it's understanding, you know, when our body is reacting with pain or headaches or, you know, different things on our body and our skin and our eyes and our tongue, we have to pay attention to it and say, okay, what is causing it? Is it my diet? Is it my mental state? Or is it my environment? So in functional medicine now, the environmental part of it is huge. People really want to understand if you're having this problem, you're eating healthy, you're exercising, you're doing all of this stuff, but you're still keep getting cancer, there has to be something in your environment that's causing that. So anyway, so I wanted to just kind of talk about this because to me, a smart home is not a very smart choice, in my humble opinion, just because you're going to, first of all, expose yourself to unneeded radiation and unneeded exposure. And, you know, if you do need a refrigerator that talks to you or monitors you or whatever, then that's your own choice, of course. At that time, maybe you just focus on your bedroom. So that's a personal choice that people will have to make and then see how it's impacting you. As a mom, you know, my main thing is my family and my kids. And if you have pets, etc. Oh, another thing about pets, while I have just talking about it. Cats like geopathic stress. So they like the negative energy. They kind of feed off of it. They like, their body kind of transforms that. Dogs, on the other hand, likes the positive energy, right? So again, there's no right or wrong. It's just different types of energy. But if you have a cat that sleeps on your bed a lot, you may have geopathic stress. That may be a sign of it. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. But that kind of energy, and they may go there to offset their negative energy too. So it may be a positive area. So just if they spend a lot of time in specific areas, just notice that is what I'm saying. Then you can figure out, are they going there to kind of offset their negative, or is it a negative energy that they're kind of drawn to? So, all right, so all this electricity kind of comes in, it goes into our meter and it feeds all of our appliances, right? And then we have a neutral that actually goes back with this line here, and it attaches one of these lines and goes back to the power station, right? So that's the evening of the current. Now what's happening is we're now putting solar panels on some homes, right? So this is only your home. So imagine what's happening on your neighbor's home, right? So if your neighbor now has a solar panel put in, what's happening with the flow of energy, right? If they're pushing more onto the grid, now you have an uneven flow of energy, which means you're going to have magnetic fields, which means even though your home may be okay, you're going to get exposed to magnetic fields from your neighbors. Also, if your neighbor has a wrong grounding, right, or neutral, and there's circuit or electricity being pushed into the ground, right, and that electricity is kind of looking for that wire back up, you may have your yard being exposed to that. So I'm going to go more into this, but it's not just your home, but it could be your neighbor's home. Now in condos and stuff, of course, you're limited to whatever's happening there as well. So if you have bad wiring somewhere, or geopathic stress, etc., you're a little bit more limited. But the good thing is there are things that you can do. Now they have paint that you can paint your walls, and that kind of limits, it has a lot of carbon and graphite, and that absorbs some of those, the radiation. So there's also in our area here in Northern Virginia, we have a lot of radon gas that comes from the ground. So not just geopathic stress, but the radon gas. So that carbon actually would absorb some of that too. So there's paint you can do just if you wanted to just do your bedroom. Just shield it and create like almost like a Faraday cage. So that's electric and magnetic fields. And I'm going to just check just some questions here. I appreciate the feedback, you guys. Thank you. Okay. Yes. So this is, okay, I'm going to go over the radio frequency ones as well. So this is the electrical fields, right? So this is how it kind of comes into our home. And I don't have the grounding here, but you have a grounding into the ground. So this is in case your house gets hit by lightning, etc. We're not pushing all that stuff back and blowing everything up. So there's circuit breakers there that limit that exposure and pop, basically. So if there's too much, it's going to go into the ground. Okay, every home has a stake in the ground. You know, some things that I didn't know either. That kind of dissipates that. So again, I wanted to kind of show that there's townhomes here as well. And then if you have multiple levels and different ways that we're using some of this. So with the solar panels, depending on where the solar panels is, it's creating electricity, right? So what are you going to have? You're going to have electric fields and you're going to have magnetic fields, depending on how these solar panels are routed. And if they're over the bedrooms, so I always recommend people, you know, like our neighbors got solar panels, put it over the garage, not over the bedrooms, especially where you're sleeping, because you're going to have that electricity. And there are obviously ways you can test for that. You can go in and, like I said, you have meters to do it. I'm not going to go into this typical home breaker box, but I wanted to kind of show you there's the grounding bar, and then there's a neutral bar. So again, this is what's coming from that big power line. So it's coming in and taken back, right? So then they even out. But if there's something that's happening that's uneven, or lightning hits, or your dishwasher goes haywire or whatever, then the breaker box will flip and limit that exposure to the rest of the home. All right. So I want to go over the radio frequencies because we went over electric fields and magnetic fields. So again, one thing is with electric fields, you can shield it. Anything that's metal that kind of takes it and then it connects to the ground. So you're going to see like grounding mats. People will say you can get a grounding mat that takes the excess electrical buildup that you have and pushes it into the ground. Now, what we found out is in some cases that may not be the best thing, because if you have magnetic and electric fields kind of going and your grounding is not really grounded, or it's not grounding to a place where it's going to dissipate but bring electricity back from, let's say, the neighbor's yard, you have to kind of think about it. So for grounding, like we bought a grounding mat for my husband to lay on because it helps with snoring at times, right? He felt great for a couple of days and then it wasn't really that great. So you're going to see a lot of people that kind of say, you know, it was great for a few days and then something didn't work. You have to make sure that you're grounding, wherever you're grounding to, is actually grounding. So now the easier way to do that is to have your own kind of stake. You can fish it through and put it in the ground, and you can measure that to make sure that it's going to be able to ground. But natural way to ground yourself, you know, just getting out there and just with your feet, just walk around on the grass is a great way. My big thing is really with the kids, let me just say, what kind of paint shield exposure? Okay, so somebody's asking about paint shield exposure. So that's a very good question. There are different types of paint that will block different types of frequencies. And unfortunately, you know, marketing gimmicks say, you know, blocks 99.99%. At what frequency is the question, right? So you have to understand what you're looking for with the paint to understand, is it going to resolve what you're looking for? In some cases, you know, if you just have specific frequencies and a certain paint will handle that, then it may be enough. And I'm not here to sell you guys on anything. And I believe there's going to be a lot more paint options that are coming. Right now, the way to block it is, like I said, it's like a black paint that has a lot of carbon and graphite on it. And I think there's like 2 manufacturers really. And then they just private label it. So you have to understand what kind of paint and if it's going to suffice with the needs that you have. In some cases, it may not suffice. So I can go over some of that again. Please feel free to email me so I can send you guys some more information. You know, if you're looking for that, paint is not that cheap. But again, you know, spending thousands of dollars on medicine and x-rays and all that stuff, to me, it's worth taking an understanding of your environment, like I said, especially if you're starting to show signs of any of this, to see how you can eliminate it. So that was electric fields and magnetic fields. There are fabrics you can buy as well, or metal mesh that you can put so that you can route that electrical field away from your bed. So some people put that under their bed to make sure that, you know, because electricity will get attracted to metal, and you can ground it, and it kind of takes it away from your environment. So there are different ways of doing that. The main thing is, I want to just tell you guys, if you have kids at all, it would be great if you understand the exposure that they're getting. With my son, you know, my son was like this. He would hold the iPad for hours at a time because he's watching YouTube, or even at school, right? They're starting to do a lot of that stuff. So now we have him wear the blue block glasses to help with his vision. And all the iPads are on a stand. So he has to carry this stand and not hold it, even in the car. So we're trying to limit the time that he has on there as well. But again, you know, it has to be baby steps, and they're growing up with this energy, with this technology. So we're not going to be able to block them from everything. You know, he'll grab my phone, he'll look at it, etc. There are now cases that you can buy that actually just blocks it on this end, okay? And you'll still be able to get calls and everything, but if you have to have it on your body, at least it's blocking the exposure to your body, to your cells, and it's still receiving, etc. So there are different ways that they're trying to come up with ways, but I think it's just as easy to put it in your purse or something to do it. And you know, I have the iWatch. I've had the iWatch for a while, and I just put it on airplane mode when I'm wearing it, and when I need to sync it, I put it on for a little bit, exchanges the information, but I put it on electric or airplane mode most of the time. It's still working. Another thing is, when you're sleeping, put your phone on airplane mode. If you have to have it next to you, if you're using it for, you know, alarms or something like that, put it on airplane mode. If you want to listen to your audiobooks and stuff like that, just put on audio mode, airplane mode, so that it's not constantly sending out signals. So just think about it, like it's got Bluetooth and wireless, so they have to send out a signal every few seconds, and your body is, you know, being exposed to it. And my husband and I both had our phones next to our bed, so now it's on a charger on the hallway. It's away from everybody's bedroom, and we have a charging station for those now. And you still hear the alarms, and actually it's good because it makes us get up and to turn it off. Another thing is, don't put, you know, this is not just for iPads and phones, but it's your laptops. It's anything that's creating that kind of electrical fields and radiation. When we put it on our laps, right, you see kids, let me just go through, right? Kids with these, and I'm guilty of that. You know, I've had my kids, or at least my son, with the iPad, watching it, and you can see the family on the right-hand side here, all working on the stuff. And then you have, of course, the Alexa and Google Assistant and all that. That's kind of emitting all kinds of stuff, and it's constantly sending out signals out there and looking and trying to detect. So every time that signal is being sent out, it's hitting us, it's hitting our cells, it's hitting our body. So there is some reaction that our body has to have. And some people say, well, we have to get used to it, or I will evolve from it. You may or may not. You may be a statistics of one or the other. And then we have the virtual reality stuff that's coming through. This is on my son's list. And of course, again, the concern with the vision, the eyes, and the wireless stuff. So I'm looking to make sure that it's at least at minimum it's wired when he's doing some of this. And here's all the smart appliances, right? Now, smart appliances, when we're talking about a smart home, right? So now you can control everything from your phone if you wanted to. But it's also now another way for people to monitor or people to hack. So they can gain access because your router has to host all of these appliances, right? So now not only are you increasing the risk of all of this, but now you have a higher demand for electricity, and now you have more parts. So if your Wi-Fi, goes down or whatever, you're going to have things that are not working. All right, so paint exposure. Okay, I'll go more into the paint, etc., but I want to get into just the RFs. So let me just go back. Again, like I said, I'm doing a lot of local, measurements. Right now, I just got my nice professional meter as well, and I'm waiting for my GeoVital one. Sorry, I'm just going through back, just make sure that I'm covering it. All right, so we went through electric fields, magnetic fields, and I'm going to go more into the details of your home's electric field in the training, which I'll send you guys. You will have, and I'm hoping you can give me some feedback on it. Now, the next thing is the RF, which are radio frequencies, just what we were talking about, man-made, right? 5G that's coming down the pipeline. As I said earlier, they're going to have to implement the same amount of antennas that they have implemented the last 10 years just for the 5G, which means they're going to have to be closer together because they're shorter waves, so they need to be closer together, and they're going to be stronger. So yes, you're going to be able to connect a lot of things because we're running out of bandwidth in the bandwidth arena. But at the same time, I was telling my daughter, it's like you might as well just say, look at your home and see it as a microwave, right? So it's my belief that we're going to have tremendous effects. And some countries are actually banning 5G now. So if you want to do some research or go to my website, and I'm going to provide more information there, it's a serious concern. And it's great for technology. I think it's fabulous. But I think there has to be some kind of response to it. And my thing is, coming down the pipeline, there's going to be clothing that people are going to have to wear. They're going to have to shield their homes, and there are going to be inspections for that. Just like we have radon inspection now or home inspection now, I think there's going to be EMF inspections coming down the pipeline just to see if your home is a healthier place. So RFs, let me just go through, show you guys that. So, so for those that came in, I know there's about 5 people that came a little late. I just want to go through this just 2 seconds. So we talked about, when you guys missed it, we talked about electromagnetic fields, right? There's man-made and there's natural. So you're going to see that there's electric fields we talked about, magnetic fields, radio frequencies, right? Dirty electricity kind of goes along with electric fields, but it's a little bit different. That's when you get all kinds of dirty electricity, which is it's a disharmonic way of excess electricity that is being put into the area. So we talked about, there's great books. Dirty Electricity book is great. He talks about the different schools and teachers that have had clusters of big time cancer because they've had this dirty electricity in schools. I also have some clips on, like I said, the rats and how it impacts, the electric field's impact. And they have, mice that are going crazy like ADHD kids versus the ones that didn't get exposed. So those are the man-made ones. And then we have the natural ones, which we talked about. We have the geopathic stress, which was the session that we did together. And then all these Hartman and Curry lines. I'm not going to go over all of this. This will be in the thing. But for you guys to kind of understand that there's natural and man-made. And we're looking at how we can minimize both of those and understand how it impacts us. All right, so we're going to go through radio frequencies. And like I said, these are the schools. I did a lot of research on the schools. I think there's 24 schools in Fairfax County right now that have cell towers. So our kids are getting exposed to this. So not only that, but they have their own cell phones that they're carrying too. So it really breaks my heart to see young kids carrying their cell phones on their bodies, especially in the front or on the back, and that's going to cause a lot of fertility issues for people. And like I said earlier, you can actually see this if you have a microscope. Take a sample and then take a sample after putting your phone in your pocket. You'll be able to see it. So, okay, so we talked about that. Electric fields in the bedroom. So GeoVital, I just want to go over why I chose to do GeoVital. GeoVital is, actually they're located in Austria. They are the naturopathic company. I took my first EMF classes with them. They have their own products and their own meters. And the reason that I wanted to take training from them is because it measures the body. So it's not just measuring the air, but it measures the impact on the body. So a child is going to get impacted differently than an adult. So we can actually see that impact. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten those meters yet. So I am waiting for them to arrive so I can do more of these videos. And I actually wanted to have people hold it and we could walk around. But some people said they really wanted to have it live so they could watch it. So I decided to just do it as a webinar. And hopefully that was good. So this is, again, cell phones. There are lots of research coming through about the impact of cell phones. Like I said, brain tumors, hearing problems, headaches, vision problems. So you'll notice, like if you're holding your phone on your right-hand side, maybe your right eye, vision will get impacted. So there are different research and different things that people are noticing. Same thing with cancer, right? People that put their phones in their bras, etc. And okay, health effects. So I want to go over this. So again, we talked about the calcium channels and the radiation and how it impacts us. Now, calcium channels are just one way that they have found, these researchers and doctors, that it impacts us. They're also looking at different types of impact that radiation has besides the calcium channels. And the calcium channels also impact the serotonin, etc. Now, the blue light that comes off some of these phones and the iPads, you can change that to night shift to be more amber so that you're not getting a constant blue light exposure, which may impact your vision as well as some other things that we don't quite know about. There is a lady, Magda, I forget her last name. She's actually doing research on people that have tremors or starting to get tremors or brain fog. And she cleans up their environment and you can see the person after they don't have the tremors. So there are different things that you can look at, and there are lots of different, like I said, doctors and researchers that are doing an amazing benefit to people by doing all of these researches, and they're putting these all on their website, and they're sharing it with the Bio Initiative report so that you can understand. So electric field, so these are different exposure guidelines. I'm not going to go over it, but again, you measure your body, right? So you're laying in your bed and you measure how much electrical current is going through you. That's what GeoVital building biology people, sorry, I had a brain freeze there for a minute. Building biology people are all about creating healthy environments and creating a healthy space for yourself. GeoVital is the same thing. And with GeoVital, they focus on the fact that you got to start in your bedroom, right? At minimum, start in your bedroom, and then start to decrease your exposure in the living areas where you're gathering with, you know, or spending a lot of time in, like your living room, etc. So, and then you can learn to analyze your own environment at work. You know, where are you at work? Are you, you know, like I would be sitting in data centers or in front of, you know, multiple computers. So just understanding how it may impact you. And then are you going and, you know, grounding yourself and kind of getting healthier? Are you eating right so that your bodies can recover from some of that damage? And if we're not doing that, then what's happening? You know, how is our body reacting? So these are, you know, how we measure it. So there's different, like I have a tri-field meter that measures all of these. It measures the electric field, magnetic field, and the radio frequencies. And I used to use that with my clients. So we would go and they would look at the fields, for example, if it was next to electrical lines, etc. Or we had one client in Fairfax where sadly, unfortunately, the electrical lines that were coming were on the side of the home, and the two kids' bedrooms were right there, split into two, and they both had problems. So now that they've moved out of that area, the kid's actually starting to walk. He's starting to recover the things that they could never, they weren't experiencing at all in that area. So for them, it was a big deal. For them to find a home that had limited exposure, because they didn't understand, they didn't know. Like most of us, you know, I didn't know about all of the differences between the 4 different exposures that you can have and how it may impact me. And I'm noticing it. I'm noticing with my sleep, you know, just putting a shield over and grounding it over the electrical field that I have under my bed right now, which I can't move right now, but we will move once we start packing out of here. Again, the same thing, you can, I know there's a bunch of people that are asking about the paint, so I'll go over the paint stuff again in the more detailed training, which I will give you guys. I'm still working on it, as you can tell here. I want to make sure that I cover everything and help people understand. You know, I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to scare people, but if you're already experiencing problems, and if you have an option or the opportunity to limit your kids, you know, that's the big thing. Because I'm telling you, watching kids go through cancer or anything like that is heart-wrenching. So, all right. Next thing is the electromagnetic hypersensitivity. These are people that are sensitive, and they may or may not know that they're sensitive. So when they're in certain environments, they may feel like a cringe or their body reacting to something. It could be headaches, it could be fatigue, it could be like just stress, trouble sleeping. You may also get rashes, muscle spasms and stuff like that. So people are starting to react differently. And again, this is the calcium channel thing that we were talking about. This is the calcium, right? It opens that, the receptor. And now the frequency is causing all kinds of havoc in the cells, and how that may impact depends on how well, you know, you're eating, etc. So the WHO, the World Health Organization, changed its standard and classified the RFs as carcinogen, right? So it causes cancers, but they say, you know, at specific levels, and for specific brain cancers that they've proven it, right? So for, if you look at it, even though, you know, you'll see the marketing people says, oh, the WHO has changed their classification saying, you know, RFs are carcinogens. But if you really look at what they've kind of said, because they want to make sure that there's enough proof, unfortunately, by the time we get enough proof and prove that it was just that, it's going to be too late for a lot of people, that I fear. Okay, detecting an EMF in your home. So I have the last half hour just to kind of talk about how you can create your own sacred space and, you know, understanding and detecting these things. So there are different meters that you can use. Again, I'm going to show a lot of this on my website. There's a tri-field meter. I think it's about 150 bucks. You can buy on Amazon. Let me see. Well, oh, I thought I had it in my purse, but I don't. Okay, so the tri-field meter, and then there are professional ones like the GeoVital or NFA, etc. There are also other ones out there. There are some great documentaries, which I think I have some of them on my website. But so there's professional ones, there are cheaper ones, so you can start with the cheaper one just to understand, and I can loan mine if anybody would like to do that. One of the things that I want to do is actually have some people, if they're interested, we can go through your home and look at different things, and you would be learning on how to measure some of that stuff. So that's something that I'm going to offer to people, you know, just to experience, no cost or anything. It's a learning experience for both of us, and it's also, you know, if you guys wouldn't mind, we would document it so that other people can see, you know, how things can be impacting you. All right, so that's the meters. So the first thing is really understanding, look at your environment and say, okay, I'm having a hard time sleeping. I have this, I have that, or whatever. Look under your bed. Look at the electrical environment in your bedroom. So let's start with just the bedroom. Let me just go to, I don't have these pictures in here. Okay, so we'll just start with the bedroom. So you want to make sure that at least at minimum you're able to heal right, you're able to sleep. And first is the electrical. So we can look at the electrical and say, okay, what can I minimize? Can I take my TV, let's say that's a smart TV that's doing Wi-Fi that I'm using all the time, out of the bedroom? And would I be okay? Of course, some of this will be lifestyle choice. Again, it's up to you how you want to create that environment for yourself, but ideally you don't want TV. It's bad feng shui anyways. But you don't want TV or anything that's really giving off radiation while you're sleeping. So, you know, the smart TVs are great, but they're also doing the Wi-Fi signal, right? They're looking at signals, and it's also giving off the radiation and frequencies. Now, there's all kinds of stuff on the TV giving off different frequencies and different messages, but I'm not going to go into that. So just removing your environment so that when you're sleeping, you're actually sleeping and you're rejuvenating. So you're minimizing the electric fields, so unplugging things, you know, just at bedtime, or getting the circuit breaker where it kind of shuts off at least your bedroom electricity, so you completely shut off your electrical and magnetic fields from at least the electricity. Now, if you have magnetic fields outside from the power lines, those are the hardest hurdles because there's no way to block those. So that's why it's really important if you're going to buy a home to go out there and look at the magnetic fields that are coming from the power lines, because those are going to be the hardest. Or if you're getting it from your neighbors, right? So understanding if your neighbor has, you know, solar panels, etc., or a charging station, whatever that they're implementing, that's giving off fields. So are your kids playing in that environment and being exposed to this? So bedroom is, so that's electric fields, magnetic fields, and then the third thing is the radio frequencies. So again, with your cell phones, at minimum, put it on airplane mode. When you're going to sleep, your alarms will still work. You can still listen to your audiobooks if you wanted to, but just putting it on airplane mode will stop it from sending those signals. Ideally, like we're doing, you want to have a charging station right outside your door or in the hallway or something where you can plug everything in and just clean out your environment just to see. For me, it was really under my bed, understanding what was happening and how it may be impacting me. It was the radio frequencies. Now, of course, you're going to get radio frequencies from the windows, right? That's coming in. So they have these canopies made out of, basically it's metal, and then it's cocooned with cotton or something like that, or rayon. So what that does is it blocks the radio frequencies. So you'll see some of these canopies, and they are expensive, I'm not going to lie, they're expensive, but they block that radio frequency. Now, does it block the magnetic and electric fields? No, because it's not connecting or it's not grounding, right? In order for it to kind of take away the electrical current, you have to have it grounded. So unless you have a sheet that can be grounded and take the electricity away, but then you don't have that nice cocoon fabric. Now, I have reaction, I have allergies to metals. So there's another challenge that I have with, having anything metal. So like gold is the only thing that I can put on my body that doesn't react. So if I wear earrings for more than a day, my ears will swell up. So I'm going through that detox, and having metal in my body probably is not the best thing when it comes to electrical influences, right? So it's in my blood, basically. So those are the things that I kind of think about, and that's why I got into this functional medicine, to understand, how do I look at the cause of it and understand what's happening in my body, because I've gone through now 4 or 5 years of tests, spent thousands of dollars, and they still can't tell me what's going on. So I've decided to kind of take my responsibility on my own hands. I'm learning about it, understanding how do I, what kind of tests will actually help me understand. I actually bought my own chemistry analyzer now. I can take my own blood measurements instead of having to wait a week. I get it in 14 minutes. So it's, again, taking charge of your own health, your own environment. So we're leaving this area, like I said, due to a lot of different exposures and health problems, etc. So we're fortunate enough to be able to do that, but I know a lot of people that won't be able to do that, or they have had huge investments in their home. At minimum, you can shield it. You can take action, like I said. If your kids are reacting to something or having problems, look at the environment, and then look at, the nutrition and everything else too. But the first thing is it something in the environment? Now, in our area, I always recommend people to make sure you do radon testing. And if you have anyone living in the basement, especially if it's enclosed, you should do that test. I would say probably yearly or every 2 years, because radon gas does change. It actually changes with seasons too. So it's energy coming from the earth. And radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. I had a 26-year-old friend who died of lung cancer. She had never smoked in her life. Nobody in her family smoked. She died of lung cancer. So there are things in our environment we can't smell, we can't notice, we can detect if we take the time to do it. Again, this comes back to what is important to you, and how much value do you put on your health to be able to do some of the lifestyle changes that you should do to make sure that you're not having fertility problems, you're not having some of these issues. And then it's a lifestyle choice, right? So is it okay for you to move your TV out of your bedroom, or unplug certain things, or put your phone off your body and put it on airplane mode, limit your exposure, or put it, even the mode on amber mode? So you can go in here, I have an iPhone, there's a setting in there that you can put the brightness to more amber. So just limiting that kind of stuff so that you're not constantly getting the blue light radiation into your eyes. So the low EMF home, so there's measurements that I'm going to give you guys, but it doesn't really pertain to you because you don't have a meter. But this was, again, an overview of things that I really wanted for you guys to know and start noticing what's happening in your environment and notice how you're being exposed to things. Because before this, I had no idea. I mean, I had the meter, I got it because we were protesting at schools, we were trying to measure things. I realized I was measuring it wrong. And, you know, just that exposure in itself was a great exposure because I saw how many parents are really passionate and worried about the fact that changing our kids' environment when they're trying to study or learn and they're getting this constant exposure to radiation. How effectively are they at learning things? Especially if certain kids are more sensitive, such as ADHD kids or autistic kids, and they're, you know, this is stuff that we're not quite understanding, but there's enough research happening where, you know, you take the kids out of this environment and put them in a different environment and how their body and their mind reacts. Like I said, there's brain entrainment, there's body entrainment. We entrain to energies that are around us. And if you're with people that are positive all the time, etc., you know, you're going to soak up that kind of energy. It's the same thing, the spiritual aspect of it. You know, if you're trying to meditate, you want to be in a good energy environment. You don't want all of this stuff where it's impacting your brain, your heart, your body, your cells. You want to put it or entrain it in a way that's going to protect you, that's going to make you better, right? So it's creating that meditation room where it's kind of all blocked and shielded so that you can connect. There's actually some pretty cool shows that actually talk about, you know, they take these psychics or remote viewers and they put them in a Faraday cage. And the reason that they put them in a Faraday cage is because they don't want any influence coming, and how effectively they can connect to spiritual realms or dimensions and get information back. So there's some really fascinating things as far as, you know, is all of this so that they're blocking us from being able to connect to higher spirits? I don't know. Is it because they want to, you know, send messages that they want to send? I don't know. There's a lot of different conspiracy theories out there. But I do know that they have, the government has, weapons that they're using with this. They don't have to sit there and shoot us or, you know, send whatever. They can send specific waves to specific people and influence it. And I have that on a website, which I don't think I have up, but it's on my website. So I'll send you guys my, it's ida.net, ayda.net. So, and they call it non-lethal tactical weapons. So the technology is out there, so they can beam specific frequencies to people, whether it is to heal or to harm is the intention behind it and the frequencies behind it. My broker just got his brain surgery done with no cutting, with sound waves. They actually severed part of his brain because he was having tremors and he stopped having tremors. And they did that all with frequencies and sound waves. So they don't have to cut through your skin. So we're at that era now where we can read the energies of the body, right? Of course, not a lot of people have access to that, but read the energies and then see what energies are off. Now, some of you were in my sound health training where, you know, I went through this sound health where they take a sample of your voice, and depending on the patterns and the frequencies that are there, she has a program that diagnoses or says, you know, this is what may be happening, and this frequency is off balance, something's going wrong. You need to bring it to a harmonic level. So from there, she could, you know, she healed the fact that I had lost my voice when I was pregnant, and they couldn't figure out, you know, they had some technical term for it, but I lost my voice. And at the time I was doing sales and training, and my voice was everything, but I was pregnant, so I couldn't get a lot of the different treatments. So I went to see this lady, Sound Health, in Ohio. And within 15 minutes, She took a sample of my voice, right? She looked at the frequencies, and then she looked at the pattern of those frequencies. So you can see, if you have specific patterns. The same thing with these frequencies, like the radio waves, the dirty electricity is kind of all over, all jagged. It's not harmonic to our body. So she did the same thing, and she saw what was harmonic and what wasn't with just the sound, not even, the EFs. But this was same thing, frequencies. And she was able to come up with 3 different frequencies that she wanted me to test. And, she gave me the frequencies. And within, I think, 15 seconds, my voice started to come back, and that was it. One-time shot, the frequencies that my body needed in order to figure out how to communicate again. Because for some reason, it had gone out, out of whack. And my body just wasn't able to create those frequencies to be able to connect, to communicate so that it would work. So at least that's my explanation of it, because we don't quite understand it. She has doctors that will come in, they can't move their fingers, right, because of some surgery. And she exposes them to specific frequencies, and they can do movement. And the doctors are amazed. They can't figure out how this is working, but when they're being exposed to something, they can do something. So again, it goes back to these frequencies are impacting us. Whether it's a good impact or a bad impact, only you can tell. So understanding your environment, understanding how your body is telling you what's happening with, what you're putting in and what it's being exposed to, understanding how to read those signs, right? Your nails, your eyes, I talked about that a little earlier. Even what you're excreting, right? The color of your pee and poop, the shape, texture, all that tells us something that's happening in our bodies. So once we understand, okay, my body is reacting to something, is it my environment? Is it my mental state? My physical state? Is it my nutrition? All of those play a synergistic role in creating the state that you're in. And just from that, understanding if you need to heal, if you're going through a lot of stress at work, if you are constantly exposed to stuff, coming home and saying, okay, I need to meditate or rest or whatever, and having that sanctuary space where you don't have any of this stuff, limit as much of it as you can, and just allow your body to connect, right? Allow your mind to connect to yourselves, connect to the environment, connect to the spirits of your choice. Or if you don't believe in spirits, connecting to your body and understanding where you are and allowing that time to heal. And I think that's all I have. I want to leave at least 10 or 15 minutes for questions from people. So I know I talked a lot, but I really wanted to get some of this stuff out and help you guys understand. And I hope you can see me because I can't see myself. But like I said, I am putting all of this stuff together in a way that you can go in, take the training, step by step first, understanding what you can do about it, understanding the differences, first of all, and what may be impacting you, because they each do different types of damage. And I haven't outlined that yet because it's kind of all over the place, right? Like some doctors will say electric fields definitely cause leukemia, and some people are saying, the radiation exposure, maybe it's just the right frequencies that are causing. It doesn't matter if it's electric or radio frequency, but those frequencies are going to impact us. So some of the other ways that you can offset it is, if you're playing music at home, so that you're entraining your body to kind of be more harmonic. And also, I believe in the quantum field, quantum energy, and quantum shielding. I think we have the powers to be able to control what's happening around us. And there's no reason why you can't visualize and put the energy, I visualize a bubble that comes from my heart and creates a nice protective bubble. But, to focus on that so that you're not taking in a lot of this. And again, that's my belief that we have the power to be able to do that and to tap into that, because the minute you walk outside, you're, part of the network. whether you like it or not, your cells are part of the network. They are being influenced and they are taking in the information. And what kind of information depends on where it's coming from. So I hope this was beneficial, you guys. And I know there's some questions. So let me see. All right, perfect. So there's a lot of comments. Do you guys have any questions? Thanks for the comments. I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, I am putting together the training. So I'm doing this, and I'm also doing the building biology training, which I'm off to Ottawa in January. So I'm going to learn more about how to actually create, from ground up, how you can create something that's more energetic, tapping into the Earth's positive energies and limiting some of the negative energies that we can get from outside. So I am going to be doing that. I will integrate it, but right now what I am doing is just the EMF, just this, about how to create a sacred space in your home. So we're going to start with the home, and then I have obviously some stuff in there for schools. So if you have your kids at schools or daycare, etc., you can go out and look at, is there a cell tower next to my kids', playground or school, and what kind of diets would help them remediate some of that exposure that they're getting at school. You can do diet, and then again at sleep time, can they sleep and recover? Do you have a list of suggested products to help with shielding? You mentioned a phone cover, a stand, and some others. Yes, I do. And I will send you guys all of that. I do have, like I said, I am just starting to put together my website as well with some of this information. So I will put it out there. You can go on Amazon and actually look, but the thing that you need to understand is, just like we were saying with paint. With paint, it's a marketing gimmick, correct? They'll say, oh, it shields 99%. Well, 99% of what frequencies, right? So you need to understand if you spend, I don't know, $1,000 shielding your bedroom, and now the 5G tower is going to be right at the pole around you, will it shield towards that? Will it protect you over that? And also, if you have electric fields more than radio frequency waves, etc. So understanding what is the best choice for you. Once you have an understanding of how you can measure certain things, what makes sense for your specific environment, because I can tell you everybody's environment is different. And here, Northern Virginia, you're going to have smart towers or smart meters too. And if you could see some of the pictures that I have, where the smart meters are, attached to, multiple ones are attached to somebody's bedroom, right? Because they're on the lower level and the meters are right there in a condo. And then they have the HVAC systems on the other bedroom. And just the pure impact of how much radiation would be coming into that bedroom. I would love to go in there and say I'll do a free analysis, but it's not my place. It's educating the people and sharing this information is the best way we're going to be able to get people to understand. Can you repost the slide with EMF man-made natural? Oh yes, I can. Let me do that real quick. And I'll have this for you guys too. Let me close out of this. Yes, the geopathic stress was the thing that we did where you can take dowsing rods. And the best place to do it is really out in the nature. So geopathic stress, again, is when the earth is sending these not so beneficial, I shouldn't say not so beneficial, just different types of energies that don't do us justice physically. Human beings do not quite do well in that. It could cause a lot of problems. So whether that's geopathic stress or electric fields, etc. But geopathic stress, you can take dowsing rods and you can walk through your home and ask those questions. So it's also a great way spiritually to connect, I find. So these dowsing rods you just hold in your hands, you say, show me the path of the geopathic stress, right? So you can get connected with the spiritual aspect or spiritual side of yourself and kind of go through this. Now the Curry lines and Hartman lines are just different lines of energy grids that we have on this earth. So those are lines that are kind of going everywhere, right? North, south, and different ways. The problem is where they cross. So if you have geopathic stress and you have the Hartman and Curry lines kind of cross, and it's in your bed where, you know, it's over your heart or it's over your head, that kind of accumulation of negative energy is where you're going to have problems, right? Again, you could have insomnia, etc. So these are the natural parts of it. It's a little bit harder to detect because a lot of people don't feel like they can detect it, but I can tell you just from our meetup, people can detect it, and you can start focusing with that. Now, there are signs for geopathic stress. Like I said, certain animals love it, certain plants love it. And if there are trees that look like they're all kind of crumbled and kind of deformed, you can tell that that was when there was a geopathic stress that hit that tree because it was kind of all over the place. I just did a month in Peru with the cerebral healers, and they were talking about how they can read the earth, right? How they can read the plants. And when we were in Peru, you could see these trees that are all like misshapen because they have so much fault line earthquakes there, right? So all these trees are all kind of wacky. It's really amazing the signals that the earth kind of sends us too. And like I said, certain pine trees, etc., certain things grow. They love that negative energy because they take it and they transform it. So again, with the animals, right? The cats like the negative, dogs like the positive. So there's some things, and it's not. I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but it's good signals that we can kind of see by observing the animals and the nature and the plants and the trees to see what kind of energy is happening in our home. All right, let me see. Circadian rhythms. Okay. Yeah, I will have all of this on the website as well, yes. And let's see. Yeah, actually, baby monitors are not a good thing because it's constantly giving off radiation. So when the babies start trying to sleep, right, we're sending all these radio frequency waves to the baby. So yes, I don't have one where I have measured it, but I can definitely send you some information on that. You know, I would just take it out. I don't think you need to have baby monitors. I really don't. I just don't see the need for it. But, you know, if you need to have it, then that is your question. That is your, oops. As far as the training, I'm trying to get it done before the year end. Just because of the holidays and everything else, I am trying to do that sooner than later because we are in the midst of actually packing. So I would like to get this done while it's kind of fresh in my mind. But like I said, I am waiting still for my meters. I did get a really nice one, which is a professional one that I'm going to be using for building biology stuff as well. So that we could use. And my tri-field meter is available as well. So yeah, if you're interested in analyzing your environment, absolutely just drop me an email. My email is idawalsh@gmail.com. It's AYDAWALSH@gmail.com. And we'll schedule something and I'll come out and actually I'll give you the meter so you can become the EMF detector. I actually got my son doing this, which is great because he can actually see the impact of the iPads and the different rooms, and he was actually doing my bedroom to get them involved. Is pretty cool, because then they understand the environment. All right, that's what I have, and I hope it was beneficial. I would love some feedback. If you guys could drop some, if you're here from the meetup, then meetup and one or the Facebook one would be great. And if you have any questions afterwards, let me know and I will answer it. All right, that's all I have, and I think I did pretty good with timing. One more minute to see if there's any other questions. What were the frequencies? Thank you, looking forward to learning more. Excellent. What were the frequencies around the schools? Well, I can tell you that with the tri-field meter, I went to Crossfield, and I have these in the document that I have, so I can show you some of that. So if you have specific schools, we can actually go there if you wanted to, or I can give you the meters and you can measure it if you have some concerns. I went to Crossfield. I mean, not Crossfield, sorry. Crossfield is where my son is right now. He's scheduled to go to Rachel Carson in Herndon. And there is actually a cell tower at Rachel Carson, which let me just show you guys. It's actually pretty interesting to look at, because right where the cell towers are, there's also a health and rehab center on the other side. So this is the cell tower. There's only one right now, but unfortunately, literally, the scale was going off the chart on the RF meter, right? So I'm looking at radio frequencies because these are radio frequencies giving off communications. Now, also keep in mind, when you measure that is another thing, right? So what kind of cell phone usage are being done during daytime versus nighttime? So when you measure it, also impacts the measurements. But when I was measuring Rachel Carson, it was literally going off the chart. Like, it was just, and it does bounce back and forth because it's a pulsated communication. So you want to look at the peaks. But I have all of those, which I will post, and I can tell you that that's the reason why we're pulling my son out of that, because I don't need for him to get exposed to that, especially 8 hours a day at his school. So, but I will post those. That's a very good question as well. Around the schools. Let's see, standing, you mentioned, yes. So the products and everything I will post as well. But if, like, at this point, if you have any questions, you can actually go and look at Amazon too, as far as the shielding stuff that they have. Some of the infographics. Yes, those are actually the things that we've created. All of this is stuff that I've created. Actually, my graphic designer did. I just came up with the designs. So all of this will be in the training, yes. And I don't have anything like a packet right now, but I am working on it as far as, top 10 things you can do. But there are so many people out there that have actually done this. So if you just Google it, you'll be able to find some stuff if you need it in an emergency. All right. Anything else? Well, I just want to say thank you guys, and I commend you on at least spending a little bit of time to understand all these different things. And I hope I was able to convey the information. Like I said, it's a lot of information and it's hard to convey everything. But at minimum, I hope it makes you more aware of your environment and how it may be impacting you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, you guys. And I hope to see you maybe in the next meetup. Thanks. Have a great day.